one afternoon, he and I wound up in Hope's pasture together. And all of a sudden he looks up at me and he says, "Hey, Miss Rhonda, I need you to do me a favor." And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "No, I mean it. I need you to tell me when Hope's gonna die." And I said, "Buddy, Hope's doing great right now. She's running and bucking and playing and doing her thing. I don't think you have anything to worry about." And he said, "I need you to promise me that you'll let me know if you think something's gonna happen to Hope."
I would say that the majority of the kids that we work with, the average individual would see them as a child with behavioral challenges, or a child who makes everybody else's life really difficult. So a lot of times they're the kids who are having major meltdowns at school. They make learning hard for some of the other kids sometimes, and I think that's what people see on the outside. What we see at Spirit Reins is where they came from. Being in relationships your entire life where you just kind of take whatever comes to you brings you some problems, and that's what's going on with a lot of the kids we work with.
And once a kid or even an adult goes through prolonged trauma, their brain changes to where they just live in the survival parts of their brain and don't utilize the thinking, problem-solving parts of their brain very well. If your brain is stuck in survival, like these horses are born in a state of survival. So most of their responses to any kind of stress is going to be fight, flight, or freeze. When I'm training a horse, what I'm really trying to do is teach that horse how to develop its neocortex, that part of the brain where executive functioning and concrete and abstract thought happens. And it's the same thing that we're doing with our kids, trying to get them out of that survival part of their brain and into the really good thinking part of their brain.
We do something here that actually addresses the neurobiology of trauma, and it starts to change what's happening in the brain and start to change what's happening in the body, and we can reorganize the brain. Many of the kids that we work with have been they've been victimized. It's been a big part of their trauma. And so they often will choose a horse that's going to bully them a little bit, victimize them a little bit. And that ends up being really powerful work for those kids, because they get to figure out, how do I have some power over this? And how do I build a relationship where I'm not the victim? They've sometimes had their first ever healthy and trusting relationship with that horse. It's in the moment. It's in vivo. So I'm not talking to them about how do you make these relational changes in your life. Go give that a try next week and let's see we'll discuss how it went tomorrow and next week in therapy. Instead, we're dealing with it right now in the moment.
Despite all this trauma, they come here and they work so hard to overcome that. They try so hard. And when they get that right, and you watch them leave the ranch like with a smile on their face, holding their mom's or dad's hand or their sister's hand, or telling us about all the new friends they have at school.
And people ask me a lot of times why I decided to do equine therapy. And I decided to do it because it's more effective, is why. And with that choice comes sacrifices, because it's an expensive form of therapy. There's an equine professional that you're working with who's extremely important to the process. There are horses, which are, expensive little critters.
I want to be able to serve more of those kids. I want Spirit Reins to be able to serve as many children as possible. I want us to find systems that we can plug into that allows us to provide the best possible mental health services that we can to these kids that truly change their lives. Not just make them feel better for a moment, but completely change the trajectory of their lives, where their future is something that they've never even dreamed of before, and that now is possible.
I think we help them to rewrite that story.
And he breaks the silence again and he says, "Hey, Miss Rhonda, you know what you should do?" I was a little nervous to respond. I said, "What's that?" And he said, "You should dedicate this ranch to Hope. This should be Hope's ranch." I said, "Okay, that's what it will be."